Am I the a-hole for telling my brother-in-law I will never forgive his daughter, and I have no intention of ever having her near my family? So the people involved here, me, 30 female, my husband, 35 male, my older sister, 35 female, my sister's son Kevin, 14 male, her husband Joe, 40 male, Joe's daughter Kelly, 15 female. My sister had a blended family with her bio son, her husband, and her stepdaughter. I would say it was still a work in progress for them, but we all accepted and included Joe and Kelly into our lives. A few weeks ago, my husband and I organized a little get-together at our place to celebrate my birthday, and for people in our family to spend time with our 6-month-old son. The people present were my sister and her family, plus our parents, so very intimate and chill. Everything went well, and nothing out of the ordinary happened. But some days after the gathering, my nephew Kevin came to our house and asked to speak to me about something concerning. For info, Kevin and Kelly attend the same school and have some mutual friends. My nephew told me that Kelly had been telling her friends that during the gathering, she saw her step-uncle's, my husband's, organ. She claimed she was in the bathroom. My husband entered without knocking, and he had his organ out, and that's how she ended up seeing it. This is absurd, because my husband does not do this even when we are alone in our home. And honestly, who does that when they know they have guests over? So I asked everybody who was present that day to meet at my parents' house and confronted Kelly. She started crying and confessed she lied to her friends. According to her, all of her girlfriends had already had some sort of intimacy and experiences, and she had none by that point. So she invented this story to look cool in front of her friends. I lost it. I called her a disgusting POS, a psychopath, and told her she risked my son's father's life just to boost her stupid social life among her friends. I told the rest of my family that, going forward, I will never bring my family near Kelly again. The consequences for this girl came fast. My nephew told everybody at school the truth. My sister and Joe went to the school and informed the principal about what happened, so in case any teacher heard that BS, they would know it was made up and not take action. My parents cut contact with her and will not host her in their house anymore, and my sister refuses to have Kelly live with them, so she was permanently moved to her mother's place. Before you start judging my sister for this, please keep in mind that she has a bio son who needs to be protected. If Kelly could so easily invent and tell those things about my husband, who can guarantee she will not lie about her stepbrother too? Now Joe is obviously hurt and torn about everything that happened. He keeps telling me that Kelly is depressed and wants to apologize to my family, but I keep refusing. I explained to him that I don't need her apology, and she shouldn't waste her time with this, because I will never forget what happened or move past it. Joe keeps begging me to forgive her because she's just a stupid teenager, and maybe if my sister sees me forgiving her, she will be willing to eventually accept Kelly back. I told Joe that a stupid teenager can have the power to ruin a man's life and reputation, so I am not risking it. Also, I fully support my sister, and I want to protect my nephew too. Before Kelly was moved to her mother's, Kevin stayed with me and my husband for some days. So I don't regret my decision at all. I stand by everything that I said, but I feel bad for my brother-in-law. Regardless of how messed up his daughter is, he is a great guy, respectful, and he really values the concept of family and honesty. So I don't know. I guess I want to ask if I was the a-hole towards him. Now for the top comments. Kevin showed his maturity here. He realized how devastating this lie could be for your husband. He is an amazing kid indeed, and he is very close to my husband and me, and knew from the start everything was a lie. Has your brother-in-law and Kelly's mom put her into therapy? Because there is no way she didn't realize the danger to your husband by her lies. She's 15, not 5. The thing that everyone keeps forgetting is even though it sounds like an accident the way she told it, it could still end up with him being arrested and charged with indecent exposure to a minor. Even if found innocent, he would always have that stigma attached to him. People around here don't mess around when it comes to things like this. Exactly. Thank you for this. I left a lot out of the post because I am not sure what it's allowed here or not. But let's say that no sane adult who heard her story would ever think it was an accident. She provided some details and made some remarks that made it look like he flashed her. Good for you for dealing with it right away. All of your family's actions and reactions were prompt and on point. Kelly's very much in the faux after fa. Kids don't think ahead. Kelly's old enough to understand the damage that accusations like that can cause. I suspect she told a secret to a couple of friends and it snowballed. Joe's marriage is in for some tough times. I wonder if it will survive. Your sister should never let Kelly back in the house while her son is there, if ever. I do hope Kelly gets counseling. This is the kind of thing that will stay with her, the story that family whispers about. I read a similar story, but the stepfather was a teacher. It cost him his job, his volunteer work, and most of his friendships. He never got those back when it was found out she had made the whole thing up. His ex, who had believed the daughter, was devastated by the situation. He had of course left the family home during the investigation, but he went further and walked away from the relationship, the family, and instead sent divorce papers. She even offered to leave her family and go away with him. He refused and disappeared. OP, you are not the a-hole. The only a-hole here is Kelly. She acted impulsively and should pay the price. Let it go from your mind. You have a family to protect. Next story. Am I the a-hole for reporting threats made by my husband's kids and their mom to CPS, and then leaving because I'm pregnant? I, 30 female, have been married for the last 2 years and together with my husband, 33 male, for a little over 4.5 years. He's divorced with 2 children, 11 and 13, with his ex. I was not the other woman. They were not married when I met him and had been divorced for at least 3 years by that point. But the ex was very difficult once I moved in with my husband. It was something that could be managed by reducing contact back then, but she made it clear she didn't want her kids to have a stepmom, and she did voice to the kids that she did not want them to like or respect me. It didn't work right away, and we got along well at the start, but a few weeks after the wedding, there was a very clear change in the relationship. It wasn't unmanageable, and we went to therapy together to try and make things work well like they had previously. Things changed for the worse when I became pregnant. We told the kids, and they became angry. They told their mom, and she became angry. And then the kids were aggressive in speaking to me. There was a lot of F-yous and F-offs, and get the heck out of here from them. I was called names. I was told to get an abortion by the 13-year-old. My husband was speaking to his kids and punishing them when needed. But it got worse. And then the kids showed me texts between them and their mom, where there were threats to me and my unborn child, which turned into them threatening to make sure I didn't give birth. They were serious enough that I had to call my husband home from work early because the kids were acting like they might just follow through. He disciplined them, and he told me that I shouldn't worry because they wouldn't really do it. I told him I wasn't sure about that, and he told me he wouldn't let anything happen. But it almost did. The 11-year-old attempted to make the threats a reality. I told my husband I was not putting myself or our baby at risk. He told me it wouldn't happen again, and he'd be dealing with it all around, but he had no answer as to what he could do, not even to say the kids would never be left with just me. And then more threats came as we were fighting about it. I told him I was not taking chances with my baby. I made a report to CPS, and then I moved out of the house I share with my husband and in with my parents. This is all very recent, but the CPS investigation is taking this seriously from what I can tell. My husband has reached out to me, and he expressed how hurt and angry he was that I took it this far. His parents have also done the same. They told me I took it too far, and I could have worked with my husband to make this safer for me. But I feel like I gave it a chance, but he was far too blasé about it, especially after the attempt. But maybe I'm overreacting, and I'm here to be told if that's true or not. I only want to keep my baby safe. Am I the a-hole? You did not overreact. He didn't tell his family the whole story. I bet they don't know about the text or the threats. Get a divorce lawyer and ask for supervised visitation only. File for a restraining order from his kids and ex-wife for you and your unborn child. Involve CPS in the custody case. They know the whole story. The texts were mentioned, but it didn't matter because his parents still think there was a better way to handle this. It worries me that they don't take this as seriously as me. I understand they love their grandchildren and my husband loves his children, but this baby is a grandchild or child too, and is at risk even if they don't want to believe it. Not the a-hole. You went above and beyond trying to create a safe environment. Your baby's safety comes first, period. For me it does, but I don't think my husband or his parents feel the same way. Or they're overconfident that they won't let it happen, when one attempt already happened and could have caused so much harm. Sorry to ask this, but what was the one attempt? That feels like a huge part that's being downplayed. The attempt would have led to the threats being followed through on, if it had succeeded. The attempt involved the stairs. The threats were all physical violence though, and some of it very graphic in nature. Next story. Am I the a-hole for drawing a line with my girlfriend about our involvement in her now pregnant and intellectually disabled sister? I've been with my long-term girlfriend for several years. Her sister has an intellectual disability. She functions roughly at the level of a 13 to 15-year-old. She's generally a good person, and I've always treated her with respect, but she clearly struggles in many areas: holding a job, managing adult responsibilities, and general aspects of society. Her family has supported her financially and emotionally for years. Recently, she married a man who is also intellectually disabled, although he seems somewhat more independent. A few weeks ago, I found out she's pregnant. According to my girlfriend, her sister wanted a baby because it would make her happy, and her parents are on board. They've expressed that the child can also take care of her sister when they grow up. Until then, they, and possibly the husband's family, plan to help raise the child. I reacted negatively when I heard this. From everything I know and have seen, I honestly don't think she can safely or responsibly raise a child on her own. The idea that the baby is being brought into the world with the expectation that it will be the caretaker someday feels deeply unfair, to the child most of all. I brought up these concerns with my girlfriend. She supports her sister's decision, but when I asked if she'd feel comfortable leaving our future baby with her sister for a week, she admitted she wouldn't. That honestly just reinforced my concerns. I told her that while I respect her sister, I want it to be crystal clear between us that I disagree with the decision and that I will refuse us taking on any extra sort of a parenting help or be financially burdened in the future by this. I'm not okay with the idea that our future family, or me personally, would be expected to step in and support her sister's child long-term, outside of normal uncle-aunt interactions. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I had to reread the child can take care of her sister when they grow up part like 3 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. That's actually an insane take. Having a child, putting it in an environment where you know it won't be properly cared for because the parents aren't mentally or physically equipped, and justifying it all with it'll be the carer is horrible. Not the a-hole. Honestly, you sound like the only sane one that's given any thought about that little human in this entire situation. Also, with both parents being intellectually disabled, isn't there a certain probability that the child inherits some of their disabilities and needs help themselves, rather than being able to give it? I knew a couple who both had intellectual disabilities, raising 2 children with average intelligence. The kids passed their parents' functioning levels at about 10, and it was an absolute mess. The kids were running the house, and if the parents tried to set boundaries, the kids could easily manipulate the parents and get around them. The parents had no control, and the kids had increasingly severe behavioral issues. They ended up having a sister move in and take over parenting entirely, which got the kids under control pretty quickly, but led to resentment from the parents, who felt usurped. It was a mess. They did end up giving custody to the sister, and the couple moved out and had another baby. APS and CPS need to be involved here. One of my closest friends had almost the same situation about 10 years ago now. Sister with an intellectual deficiency married a guy who also had an intellectual deficiency. They got pregnant. They couldn't take care of the baby, and my friend has had guardianship since the baby was 5 days old. If she hadn't said yes to the guardianship, baby would have been placed for adoption. Has anybody even considered that as an outcome? It sounds like the grandparents might be willing to step up and do that if needed, but there's a difference between saying they will and actually doing the thing when it comes down to it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for pulling away from my parents because they always decide to break bad news on important days for me? This was a long-running thing with my parents, and something my siblings, 19 and 17, commented on. I, 21 male, am the oldest of 3. And starting at a young age, my parents have made weird decisions about breaking bad news. It started when I was 7. I was the lead in our school play, and 20 minutes before the play starts, my parents decided to announce my great-grandma was dying. They had known about it for days at that point and waited to tell us and said they needed a good moment. Then, they acted super shocked when I bawled in front of everyone. I messed up the whole play and couldn't get a single line right. Then, when I was 9, it was the day of my assessment for learning disabilities. My parents announced on the way home that Dad had lost his job 3 weeks prior, so they could have waited another day or two to tell us, and we'd have to make a lot of changes in our lives. At the time, I wondered if they saw my learning disabilities as a burden on top of everything and resented me for it. The morning of my 10th birthday party, not my actual birthday but a few days after, they told us they had to put our dog down 2 days before and had not sent him to our grandparents' house for a few days to not have him running around during the party. They announced they were getting a divorce on my 15th birthday. My mom waited until my graduation to announce she was diagnosed with cancer. She'd known for 2 months, just waited, and again on a day important for me. When I moved out for college, I dropped the rope. I didn't call or text. I didn't even check in on Mom. I spoke to my siblings every day, sometimes twice a day, but I didn't invest in my relationship with my parents. I didn't go to either house for Christmas or summer break. I figured out other stuff. They called a few times and I answered, but I would always make it short and to the point. My siblings said my parents thought I was just being a typical first-time college kid, but it started to get more obvious by the first Christmas after I moved out. They avoided bringing it up until this summer, when they saw on Insta that I moved into an apartment with 3 of my plants, and we decided to put down roots here. They brought up the elephant in the room and I was honest. They asked me why I never talked to them about it, and I said it wasn't something I should have to bring up, because they weren't announcing things as they happened. They'd wait and that crap felt intentional. I said they didn't forget when my birthday was, or that I was 10 minutes away from performing in the school play. And the lack of sensitivity made them less approachable. Both of them think I was petty to pull away for this. My siblings think they're just heavily in denial. Am I the a-hole? Your parents think you're wrong to pull away because how are they ever going to screw up an important day for you ever again if you don't give them the chance to? Not the a-hole. Enjoy your peace. Your folks use you as an emotional punching bag and you're under no obligation to allow them to do that to you. Abusers get annoyed when they lose control of their victims. Not the a-hole. Tell them you didn't want them to know you got an apartment and then be told the next day that an uncle died a year ago. Or when you graduate, then they can tell you that they have to move across the country the next day. And heaven forbid you get married. And on the day they announce they got a divorce the year before, and each of them is getting married to other people next month. You stop the pattern, because when people are at their happiest, is not the time to share bad news, nor is it when they are at their lowest, but the best time is as soon as possible from the knowledge of the event. Even the putting down of the dog could have been a discussion a month before, with time to say goodbye. Not getting to say goodbye to him really sucked. My siblings and I loved him, and he was in our family before any of us were born. So to go from he's at our grandparents to now he's dead was very traumatic.